Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy, and welcome to One to One. The headline read as follows: 67-year-old writer handcuffed and jailed over chalk graffiti, petty arrest amidst a plague. The story that followed told how Jill Nelson, well-known journalist and author, was detained by the police after scribbling an anti-Trump message on a boarded-up building near her Upper West Side home. The incident sparked a barrage of online responses, with some arguing that Ms. Nelson broke the law and got what she deserved, while others argued that it highlighted the disparity in how Black and white citizens are treated by the police. Here to share her thoughts about what happened is Jill Nelson, who ironically 20 years ago edited an anthology of essays called Police Brutality. She was also a professor of journalism at City College. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheryl. Glad to be with you.
So Jill, tell me what happened on April 16th.
I left my apartment in Washington Heights to go to the drugstore and the supermarket, essential errands. After I left the drugstore, I was walking toward the supermarket, and on the corner of Broadway and 162nd Street, I saw a beautiful green painted plywood expanse. It was a boarded up building for rent with a for rent sign. And I had a piece of pink chalk in my pocket, a little stub, and I wrote on it, "Trump equals plague." Before I could step back and admire my handiwork, two cop cars rushed off. One cut me off on 162nd, the other cut me off in the corner in a kind of an L. Two cops jumped out and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Is this your property? We're going to arrest you." I was frisked, told to get my hands out of my pocket. It was a cold day then, so I didn't. I said, "My hands are cold. I'm not taking them out. Do you have weapons? What are you doing? We're arresting you. We're taking you to the precinct." They cuffed me, frisked me, cuffed me, shoved me in the police vehicle, and two cops, and took me to the 33rd precinct, where I was put in a cell and left for 5.5 hours.
Now, what was the interchange with the cops out there on the street? Did you say anything to you? Did you say, what is this all about?
I did. I said, what is this about? Are you kidding? You're going to arrest me for writing the truth? Do you have a weapon? Do you have a weapon? I said, words. I was aghast, shocked, horrified, and angry. What a ridiculous waste of time.
Some people have asked the question, well, she's carrying this chalk. This must be, she must have done this with intent. I mean, were you planning on writing this on a building when you went out, or it just came to you?
I was inspired by the fact that we are in a pandemic, that the president is a white supremacist moron, that we are not being served well at all by our federal government. And I just thought I would write the truth as I try to speak the truth. And as far as intent, I mean, is it now a crime to have chalk in your pocket? I don't even deign to answer that sort of stupid accusation.
Now, was the reason they took you to the precinct because you didn't have ID? Is that what that was about?
No, that had nothing to do with it. They didn't ask me for my ID at that time, and they frisked me, cuffed me, and told me they were going to arrest me. When I finally got to the precinct, it turned out that I had with me cash and my debit card, because I had just run out for what I thought was going to be an hour max. And they told me that that wasn't sufficient, and that since they couldn't ID me, because I didn't have photo ID, then they began threatening after a couple of hours that they were going to take me downtown, which I believe meant to 100 Center to the Tombs, and put me before a judge. I asked them, how's a judge going to be able to ID me more accurately than you can? They never answered.
Now, I know, no one in New York is required to carry a photo ID with them, but I know, I think the issue becomes if they want to give you a summons and they're afraid that you might give them the wrong name, the wrong address, so that the summons, won't be valid. That happened to me once, and I didn't have an ID. I was had my bike up, riding my bike on the sidewalk. They did give me a summons though, but they didn't take me to a precinct. Was there any kind of interchange between you and the cops in the car, in the police car?
The cop, first they both got in the front of one of these little like minivan, not minivan, small SUV type police cars. And then the other one was like, one said, oh no, we don't have a barrier, we don't have a barrier. And so he got out and squished in next to me. And I said, you know, you didn't have to do that. I'm not going to attack from the back seat. This is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, the whole thing was
reference to the message that you had put on the building?
No, they didn't. They didn't. It didn't seem, it seemed like their obsession was, you've written graffiti, we're going to arrest you. Let me say this, that on my way to the store that day, I passed the local school where a pretty steady flow of people were going in to get the meals that are given out free now. Not 3 meals a day, not only to students, but to whole families. I saw quite a few people who didn't have masks. Washington Heights has one of the highest infection rates for COVID-19, and we're also the home of New York Presbyterian Hospital. Surely the police have something better to do in these terrible times than roll up on me and arrest me and work for 5.5 hours to mess with me because I wrote the truth. Trump does equal play, and I will demand insist on my right for freedom of speech and also the truth of what I said. I have yet to have anyone disagree with what I said.
So were you actually put in a cell at the precinct?
I was put in a dirty, disgusting cell. They told me I had to either take the laces out of my sneakers or give them to them. I gave them to them because I thought I'll be out of here, and it was unbelievable to me. I thought I'd be out of there in a half an hour or whatever. Then I had a coat with snaps, but inside it had ties. And they told me that unless they could cut the ties out, they were going to take my coat. So I gave them my coat after telling them that I wasn't going to try to kill myself by sneaker laces or the ties from my coat. They stuck me in there, and then they pretty much ignored me for a couple of hours. Then they came back, the arresting officers, and tried to take my fingerprints twice. They couldn't. Then they took me in and took my mug shot from the side, face forward. Then they told me I said, I want to make a phone call. I'm not sure if I can get my husband, but if I can, he can bring my ID. They said that they would drive over and pick up my ID if he left it downstairs. I called, they dialed my home number. He answered, hooray. I told him I had been arrested for writing graffiti and that I needed him to put my ID in an envelope and take it downstairs. The cop then said, we're going to cut you off. We're going to cut you off in 7 seconds. So he cut me off. I had a 60-second phone call. I didn't have a chance to tell my husband what precinct I was in. He went downstairs and found my ID in my wallet, put it in an envelope, went downstairs and waited 40 minutes. They never showed. He came back upstairs, figured out where I was, called an elected official, told him what was going on, and then he walked over to the precinct and gave him my ID. The only way I knew he was there was I saw the evidence bag, and there was my ID. And I said, oh, is my husband here? There's my ID. Yeah, he was here. He's gone. When was he here? Oh, a while ago. You wouldn't be able to see him anyway.
So how long were you there altogether?
5 hours and 37 minutes. I got in about 1 and I was released at 6:37.
And you have an appearance ticket now?
I have a desk appearance ticket for August 14th at 9 in the morning.
And let me say that you've been charged with graffiti, and that is in New York, that is a misdemeanor for which one can receive up to a year in jail. How did you feel about this experience after it was over at the time?
I was really stunned, I think, for a couple of days. It was just hard to believe that this was happening. But I think once that wore off, I got really angry. I was like, this is just so wrong. And I'm writing graffiti with chalk, washable chalk. When I walked home that night after walking by the hospital and clapping for the essential workers, I walked by the place where I'd written it. It was already gone. And so I think I was stunned, and then I got angry, and I thought, I'm not gonna just go for this. I'm not gonna take it silently. And I'm not gonna accept this ridiculous enforcement of a graffiti law that, as far as I've been able to tell researching, only is about willful destruction of property with acid, etching acid, or spray paint. There's chalk is not mentioned, and causing damage up to $250 or more, of $250 or more.
And this was chalk that you wrote on the plywood over the building. That was
Yes,
boarding up the building.
absolutely.
So why do you think they did it?
Overzealous, nothing better to do, entitlement to do whatever they want, sexism, racism, a total lack of respect. I mean, when you said you were given a summons for riding your bike on the sidewalk, I mean, another discriminatory practice. I see white people riding their bikes on the sidewalk all the time, and I've never known any of my white friends. I asked them, did you ever get a summons? I mean, these are the black codes. I really believe that what's happening now in this country is people's racism has been, by COVID-19, justified and weaponized to use against people of color, Black and Latinx people and other people of color.
The last time I checked, there were 130 responses to the article that appeared in the May 7th issue of the West Side Rag. Some of them said, well, she should swallow it, she disobeyed the law. Others said, this was chalk washes off when it rains. It's hardly graffiti. It's more like a free speech issue. I must say that one respondent was horrified and called to a national treasure. Thought you would enjoy that. And another one said, I don't think a white person would ever get arrested for that. And they endanger her life by taking her into custody and holding her, possibly exposing her to people with COVID. This is utterly infuriating. Do you think, obviously you don't think you would have been treated that way if you had been a white woman doing this?
No, I don't think I would have even been stopped. I don't think these young Latinx police officers, they were young, I think they were rookies, would have had the nerve. I think they rolled on me because I'm an older Black woman. Black woman is first, I think, and they just have no respect. And I feel that in general, the way the police are is they don't see you until they run, any of us, until they're ready to move on us. And when they have deemed us a problem. And look at the woman in the subway just yesterday, I think in Brooklyn, who was with her little girl, and they rushed her to the ground. 5 cops about having a mask. Now, in the video, you hear someone in the back saying, she has a mask, she has a mask. She was just had it down because she was talking on the phone. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But whether she had a mask or not, you're gonna throw a woman on the ground in front of her 2 or 3-year-old child? And let me say this about those people in the West Side Rag. They can say whatever they want because we all have the right to freedom of speech. But I speak for myself, but as much or more, I speak for all the people who don't know Sheryl McCarthy, who don't know anyone who works for the West Side Rag, who don't know anyone who works for WNBC. They did a piece about this too, who doesn't have a voice. There are so many voiceless people who are treated this way by the police every day.
All the time, yeah.
All the time, and we've got to say no, and we can't let COVID-19 be weaponized and racialized.
It was interesting.
People of color.
It was interesting. A few weeks ago, during a funeral for an Orthodox Jewish rabbi out in Brooklyn, despite the ban on gatherings of more than 50 people, there were thousands of people in the street. We saw the video, we saw the photograph. Thousands of people who were clearly violating the social distancing guidelines. Now, police did try to disperse the crowd, but I'm not aware of any summonses being given out or anybody taken into custody.
No, and I'm not aware of any arrests. And it's ridiculous. It's complete. I mean, look at the feedback about people in the parks when it was warm last weekend, I think, when white people were all clumped up and partying, and that was okay. The cops were, if they were saying anything at all, they were saying, here, take a mask.
Right.
Because Black people were arrested, thrown to the ground, and abused. I mean, I think the Civil War has never ended. And this is just the latest battle.
In your case, you suffered obviously the embarrassment, the inconvenience of being handcuffed. And were you handcuffed?
Yes, behind my back.
You were handcuffed and held in jail for 6 hours. Uh, in March, in Louisville, Kentucky, EMT worker Breonna Taylor was shot and killed while in bed at her home after police raided her home. Supposedly they looking for a suspected drug dealer who did not live in that house, by the way, and who apparently was already in police custody. Her boyfriend fired his gun, a licensed gun, because he thought these plainclothes cops were people breaking into the house. And he was arrested. She was shot and killed. The local police department says it's investigating that incident, but meanwhile, Breonna Taylor is dead. Do you see any connection between what happened to you and what happened to her?
You know, absolutely. I feel like what happened to me is one thing, but what happened to Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many other Black people is an extreme. It's like the ultimate denouement of these type of racist, abusive attitudes, which is death. But I think this has all been legitimized by the idiot in the White House. I think that, I mean, this is a guy who said that the Klans people, there were some very fine people in Charlottesville at the Klan rally. He feeds this meat to his base, and people feel entitled to treat Black people and people of color and women however they want, and that they'll never be held responsible.
You referred to the case of Ahmaud Arbery. That's a 25-year-old African-American man who was pursued by a white father and son down in Georgia when he was jogging through a residential neighborhood. They claimed they thought he was a suspect in some recent neighborhood burglaries. They approached him to make a citizen's arrest. They scuffled, and Arbery, who was not armed, was shot 3 times and killed. And it took 2 months of demonstrations and public outcry before the father-son couple was charged with a crime.
And the release of a video. I mean, if you don't have a video, no one's going to be arrested the way things are now. And even if you do have a video, no one may be indicted, or if they are indicted, be convicted.
Right, right.
It's really, really disturbing.
This kind of discriminatory harassment of Black citizens, which is sometimes fatal, as it was in this case, has been out in the open for years, and yet it continues.
Well, I think the expectation is, if you are told by the police in plain clothes or uniform, and if you are told by white people in plain clothes to stop or halt, you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to absolutely bow down before armed white power. And why? I'm not going to do it. I mean, these people who killed Ahmaud Arbery, they were a lynch mob. They appointed themselves a lynch mob and went out to get the and that's what they did.
You mentioned the fact that one thing we knew about the Arbery incident is because it was caught on video. And I think it is true that the fact that people are walking around with smartphones now and are catching a lot of these incidents, that there are a lot of incidents we would not know about if people were not there recording them. You did point out that even if they are recorded, sometimes nothing happens. But citizen journalists are more and more able to capture these things on film.
Absolutely. And I think that, hopefully it will have a chilling effect on some of this misbehavior by the police. Although in the citizen video where they took down the guy in Brooklyn, allegedly for not social distancing, and had his face on the pavement and the cop's knee was on top of him, the cops advanced at the person who was videotaping. Right. And it is legal to do so as long as you're not interfering with the police activity.
Right.
So
20 years ago, you edited a book called Police Brutality, a book of essays about, basically police brutality that's directed at primarily people of color. So, and yet it continues. What, if anything, can be done about it? People are talking about it. Obviously, there's stories about it. You wrote about it 20 years ago.
Right.
What can be done about it?
Well, it's a good point. And, you know, I was politicized when I was maybe 20 by the murder of a kid named Clifford Glover, who was shot by the police outside the house where he lived when he went up to the cop and asked him, is there a problem? What are you doing at my building? He was 10, I believe. I'll tell you what I think. I think if we had a residency requirement, the police force would immediately change. I think if you want to police in the 5 boroughs, you should have to live here. And I guarantee you that the cops who talk about coming to work as going to the jungle to tame the animals would not be members of the NYPD anymore. I really do. I think we need a residency requirement. You want to work here.
I know there's been talk about that years ago.
Right.
Was it ever voted on or was it voted down?
I guess it was voted down, but I feel like, I mean, if you want to police here, and if you want real community policing where you feel like the police are there to help you and active in your neighborhood, they should be living here. Someone asked me if I knew the officers who would arrest me. I was like, we have no foot patrol here. The only time I see cops out of their car here is when they're walking to arrest someone or take care of some situation. There's no cop on the beat. That's a total myth.
One thing I like about the Black Lives Matter movement is its name.
Right. Because
it recognizes that in America, there seems to be a willingness by the larger community to sort of cavalierly write off the lives of Black citizens as if they don't count. To say, oh, it's unfortunate that the unarmed Black man or woman was killed, but it was an honest mistake by the cops, by the white people who were trying to arrest them because they thought they were, doing something illegal. And so nobody should be prosecuted for it. But the Black Lives Matter movement demands from this title that society recognize that Black lives have as much value as others. It sort of puts that out there. Yes, it does. But then the pushback you hear from whites is often, well, all lives matter. Well, white lives matter too. I mean, But why do they matter more than ours? Apparently? Right. Would you have done anything differently? I mean, going out of your house on that day if you had to, as you look back on it? No, I really wouldn't. I thought it was really fitting that the chalk was in my pocket. I thought it was fitting that it was written in pink. It's such a feminine color. No, I wouldn't have done anything different. Jill, you have, as well as being a very good writer, you've had a history of being an activist on a number of issues. Any activism planned as a result of this recent encounter? There's some talk about it, having some sort of vigil. We're trying to figure out what the legal rights are and what we need to do in terms of that, besides masks, gloves, socially distance. But also, I mean, we have a mayor and a police commissioner who have said that they don't think people should demonstrate during the pandemic. I mean, it's just appalling. And I'm so glad I'm talking to you and you're asking these great questions, Sheryl, because this is when we need to resist. This is when we need to speak out and fight back. Periodically when things like this happen, and people will say, well, what we need in this country is a conversation about race. Now, it seems to me that we have been talking about race for years and talk about it every day, talk about it a lot. So I don't know. Do we need a conversation about race or a different conversation, or what do you think? I think white folks need to have a conversation about race because it's not my problem, it's theirs. And if it's not theirs individually, it's some of their people or some of their relatives. I mean, one thing, it's funny, I swim at Riverbank State Park and there's a lot of complaints about the person in the White House, who I can't call the P word, but I said, I don't have any friends or any family who voted for Donald Trump. But I bet you do. Silence.
Well, like SNCC told civil rights workers years ago, go back to your white communities and organize your people, deal with them. And that's what needs to happen.
Jill, I hope you stay out of trouble. We're out of time. I want to thank Jill Nelson for coming and talking to us today. For the City University of New York and 1-to-1, I'm Sheryl McCarthy.